So good afternoon. And here we are again today on a Thursday from JS Institute of Design. As promised, we are back on Thursday with a very interesting webinar for you and some very interesting guests as well. First, I'd like to welcome you all. I hope you have some pencil and paper next to you because there are going to be a lot of discussions, very relevant topics we are going to talk about. And we are going to, we'll be very happy to invite questions from you because that's the reason why we have Pankhuri, Goel and Parag, Singal with us today. So welcome once again. I'd like to remind you, this session has been brought to you by Discover Design of JS Institute of Design. Let me tell you, just help you recollect what Discover Design is. These are a series of webinars where we would like to, bring about a little more awareness about design to our participants. Design areas, mainly to begin with, would be in the space, in the area of space design, interior design. But also as we go further ahead, we would be addressing other areas of design. We have already done 11 webinars in this and under Discover Design. All in the space of interiors. If you're interested, you are most welcome to dig out we are on the YouTube, so please locate us. You are going to find many topics of interest to you. So let's quickly begin. The topic today is Future of a Designer in the Interior Profession with Parag Singal and Pankhuri Goel. Let me give you a little introduction to our guest today. Okay. Pankhuri is going to talk to us about, sorry, 1 minute. Pankhuri is the principal designer at Studio Lotus, one of the 5 members, and has been undertaking some fantastic, exciting projects, some of whom you're going to see visually, but a very quick introduction about some of the work that she's done. She's done the design of Imagine Studio, a contemporary real estate marketing experience center for Godrej Properties at the Trees in Vikhroli. This has been considered a landmark project that marries the rich industrial heritage with forward-thinking development. She's also worked on a project, RE Garage Cafe, a branded environment curated as a retail and hospitality destination for global brand Royal Enfield. In addition, Pankhuri is currently working on interior design for a new 40,000 square meters tech center and corporate office for Royal Enfield in Chennai. Retail design identity for heritage brand Frontier RAS in London and Delhi. She studied from the National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad, has worked as a museum designer, and has moved into the interior and environmental spaces in the last 10 years. So I will invite her to speak and show her work a bit. But before that, let me take you to Parag Singal, who is a principal architect at Parag Singal Architects based in South Delhi. He's got 20 years of experience. Of course, he believes in perfection in delivering projects with an out-of-the-box thinking, cost-effective solutions and designs that stand out. He's worked in the areas of corporate offices and industries. The clients such as Merino Laminates Limited, Valley Iron and Steel Company Limited, Indo-Gulf Corp Sciences Limited, Tata, Lloyd, etc. He's also worked on high-end residences, hotels, resorts, and other recreational spaces, along with institutional projects, international associations as well. He's worked in countries like Switzerland, Africa, to work up chocolate boutiques and restaurants, to a super specialty hospital in Togo. I welcome you both. Really happy to have you here. And I do remember trying to approach you and ensuring that we were aligned in our thinking about talking about the career opportunities for young designers who are going to be stepping out in the field, as well as the ones who are already over here, as to what are their opportunities, what else are they should they be looking forward to. We would talk a bit about the attitudes and certain other competencies that the industry is expecting of these designers. Before I move on to them, let me just remind all the participants, you are most welcome to put in your questions. We will be answering them. We'll take up the questions after the session, at the end of the session, and we'll try to answer most of them. Just in case we miss out a few of them, our guests have promised to put in some time to answer them later on. So let's begin. Pankhuri, shall we have, okay, I guess I've not introduced myself, but very quickly, my name is Nancy Ao. I head the Department of Design at JS Institute of Design, which is a new startup. We started just a few months ago, and we have some very exciting courses for you. But well, that is all for the end, but we'll start with Pankhuri. Pankhuri, can we see the kind of work you've done? You'd like to talk a little bit about it?
Yes. Thanks for the introduction, Nan, and thank you, JS Institute, for organizing the webinar. So as Nan said, I am here representing Studio Lotus. I'm one of the 5 design principals at Studio Lotus. So as a practice, if some of you are familiar with Studio Lotus, we do everything from, say, master planning to, which is over multiple acres of land, to like small 500 square feet retail stores. So I, as the principal, I had the commercial interiors practice at Studio Lotus. So that's some of the work that you're going to be able to see on the screen. So let me just take you through some of the projects. What you see in front of you is a project that we did for the Taj group of hotels. So this is a hotel in a place called Thiog, which is close to Shimla. So our stress is really on, each project is quite unique because the context is unique. So if we are working in Shimla, then the materials, the language, everything sort of responds to the local sort of culture and context. If you can move to the next slide. This is the hotel in Aero City. So our work ranges from hospitality to retail to workspaces. So everything which pretty much comes under the gamut of commercial interiors. So as you can see, the expression really changes fairly uniquely from project to project, depending on where it's situated. Next slide, please. This is a project that we did in Dubai. This is a restaurant called Masti in Dubai, which was really a celebration of India. So like you can see, this is actually very unusual for us, so much color and so much celebration. So, the clients actually forced us to get out of our comfort zone and really go out there and celebrate India in all its glory. So that's Masti. Next, please. Next slide, please.
I think we can move on, and Pankhuri will describe as she would like to.
Yeah, so that's the Royal. So we do a lot of work for Royal Enfield. So multiple formats. This is a retail store. We're designing a campus which is over 2 lakh square feet for them currently. So these are some of the expressions. So as you can see, again, depending on the usage, depending on the function, how the expression sort of changes, but the underlying quality sort of remains the same. The industrial aesthetic sort of carries forward in all the expression. Next slide, please.
Next, please.
So this is again for Royal Enfield, but this is in Goa. So as you can see, the vibe completely changes. So this is The local style, the Portuguese art style called azulejos, which was used as a means of expression for storytelling. So, you know, it's really how you tell the story of the brand. This is a brand called Aether. We did an experience center for them recently. Again, like, you know, because it's a new segment altogether of electric scooters. So how do you educate the clients in the retail experience? So that was really the challenge. This is a members only club in Gurgaon called the Quorum Club. So very exclusive facility. So the idea, the challenge here was that how do you make a person feel like it's a third home? Like, you know, you all have your homes and you have your workspaces. But the idea is that this becomes a part of your daily life. It's a club that you go to and it becomes a third home for you. So that is how the expression was conceived. Next slide, please. This is a retail store for a brand called Paro by Good Earth. So lots of stories. I'm not going into details, but just to say that how each project is unique and really responds to the context that it's been set in. So that's about it.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Pankhuri. Now next, Parag, may I invite you to show a little bit of your work?
Yeah, thank you, Nian, and thank you, JS Institute, for having me over. I'll just quickly begin with the projects, some of the projects that I picked up for today's presentation, particularly projects which speak the kind of work that we do, and also projects which can resonate well with your students so that they can pretty well relate with them. The first one is office interiors for around 15,000 square foot of an office that we've done in Gurgaon. So again, sticking to the concepts of bare ceilings and more contemporary kind of office settings, yet rendering a very plush look to the entire decor. We have this office where we are welcomed by nice green walls and nice elemental kind of light fixtures. Can you go to the next slide, please? So since the height is was a big advantage here, with 15 feet of height, we could scoop out nice mezzanine spaces. One of them is being used like a nice creative corner. Another one is a breakout area and a cafeteria. We've been able to fit in some account section under that. And so this is the nice cafeteria, and you stand in one of the mezzanines to get the entire view of a 125-seater office complex. Next slide. These are some of the more plush zones in the entire office, and we picked up the typical London telephone booth. You can see that we have a telephone vintage receiver being used as a handle. So the idea was that people don't really step out of the office and make personal calls. So we very categorically designed a place where they could kind of make their personal calls and be in the premises itself. Next. That's a project by the name of The Toy. It's a boutique hotel property in Chandigarh, and we did a few years back. The concept again is that the entire property is in shades of blacks and whites. We've stuck to blacks and whites and just thrown in splashes of colors on different floors. So the picture you see here was a cafeteria in black. That's the reception done in a more contemporary manner. So that's the coffee shop, which is called the Brew and Company, and we've done nice high quilted seats which welcome you with a nice splash of bright crimson color. And on the bottom is the next slide. This one is the suite area, which is again in black. Next slide. So these are different rooms that we've done. The banqueting. Again, one of the rooms with total light colors of teal and browns thrown in. That's another contemporary office with a different feel altogether, more contemporary, and at the same time, we've given it a very loungy kind of look to the entire office. The laser cut jalis that you see on the left, they create a very dramatic play of light and shadows. Next slide. So that's how the office welcomes you. And there's the nice, interesting, next slide. Yeah. So these are nice, small recreational catching up areas, small meeting areas. So that's a project which is kind of a mixed use project wherein we have a bit of hospitality, bit of office area, and some bit of banqueting lawns as well. Done for a company called Food Art Hospitality in Delhi. So this is their reception lounge. So that's the conference area, which is again done in shades of beiges and grays. That's the lounge again. And the last one I'm showcasing here is a project which is very interesting. It's a small boutique project that I've picked up. This is in a place called Grindelwald, Switzerland. And again, now you see the whole design resonates with the idea of chocolates and little femininity into it. The colors we've chosen are blacks, whites, oaks, and again thrown in splashes of dirty pink. So we've done a very European, since the context is very European, we've done in ceilings which have a typical European character, and gondolas and tables in the center. Again, you see a nice fuchsia pink kind of Louis XVI Chester thrown in. So the idea was again, to throw in a couple of bright elements which talk about the typical European character to the whole place. So that's about it. A small introduction about the kind of work we do.
Thank you. So thank you, Parag and Pankhuri. Let's come back to the purpose for which we have gathered here today. We did say that we would like to present a session where you are going to give us your views. Since you are practicing, you have the experience of being in the field. We'd like to know from you what would be the opportunities in interior design. But before we just get on to certain specific questions, I'd like to invite my participants to give their point of view. So we have a poll question for them, and we are going to put it up for them right now. Okay. So it's the poll question is about what knowledge and competencies do I need to acquire as an interior designer? Now, there are many answers to these. So I'd like to just invite the participants to let us know what you think about it. And our guests are going to respond to you guys as well. Color application and styling, visualizing a space, materials and specifications, project management, or all of the above. So let's see what your answers are. Oh, so well, Parag and Pankhuri, these are the answers. May I invite Parag to say a few words about what you think?
Well, I think most of the participants have rightly said that it's not just colors or visualizing the space that can alone contribute to the competency of a designer. Because when we talk in Toto, it's everything put together. And there are managerial skills that we need. When we talk about handling a project, it's just not about sketching and designing on a piece of paper or probably on a laptop. There's much more to it in terms of handling the entire project.
Right.
There are good project management skills that we need. We need complete exposure in terms of the materials that we have. So I think it's a complete package that we look at.
Correct. Pankhuri, I'd like to just sort of bring a perspective forward. A lot of times when we deal with students, we understand that many of them, because they feel they are creative and they've been working at being creative for a long period of time while in school, that's why they come into design. And when they come into the interior design space, they are very, very eager to get into, being able to visualize a space, to work out concepts, to work on themes, to really make it, work on the aesthetic part of it. Would you be able to help us understand a designer needs to be only doing that, or what are the other competencies you should be working at?
So that's a very interesting question, Ian, because that's a challenge that I personally faced as well when I joined the industry. So being from a design school, I sort of went into a design studio thinking that, okay, I am a designer and I know how to design. So, like say technical aspects of a project, why do I need to understand structure? Why do I need to understand detailing? Or why do I need to understand air conditioning? So that's the premise that I went in with, but I think that it was very short into my my work life that I realized that you cannot realize your vision if you're not if you can't take the project through. Like, okay, having a certain idea is actually a very small part of it. So to be able to visualize it, to be able to convert it, to be able to take it to site. So there's actually like when you think of the profession of interior design, one thinks of color, one thinks of textures, but there's actually so much more to it. There are so many layers, and like the poll also suggested, that's actually, a 5% of what one needs to do. Like there's actually so many layers and so many competencies that we need to have as designers. So yeah, I think just the creative visualization part of it is actually a very small percentage of what one ends up doing.
Well, I hope the students don't feel really disappointed, but do you feel, and that Parag, maybe you can help us understand, do you feel that while you are interpreting or translating your ideas into a reality, every other step in the process is also uh, giving reality to your dream? So if it is being made into a product, or you are applying it, looking at the functionality, isn't there a process of this also being a part of design?
Absolutely, I totally agree when you say that, because design cannot be thought of in isolation. We just cannot be sitting in an office and designing out an entire project without getting into the nitty-gritties of what the client needs are, or what probably the context is where the project needs to come up. Like Pankhuri also stated one of our projects that they actually make sure that they try and use local materials or whatever the project demands. So I think that's a very integral part of the entire journey, where we understand what the project needs, we understand what the client needs, we are able to exploit the materials available there, we are able to understand in totality what best can go into designing up for the project.
Okay. So would you also be able to now specifically say, when graduates come out of colleges and they apply to your studios or to the industry, what do they get placed as? What are the other possibilities? Is it always as a designer, or are there other opportunities as well?
So I think once they come in, it really, because you have to start somewhere at the bottom. So I might not, a person coming into the studio, I might not even give them the opportunity to design as per their understanding of design. For, I might just have somebody make me toilet drawings for the first 6 months of their, because, the kind of skill and rigor that you acquire at that point, I think that's unparalleled, because we come up with this very utopian understanding of what the design world is about. So I think it's also important to sort of break those notions as people come in, and really make the students understand the importance of rigor, of, repetitive, because a lot of it is actually about that. It's about resolving the skirting junctions and making sure that that is perfect. So so it might necessarily not be that you're given one grand project and you do like these beautiful designs. You might be just spending like 6 months detailing out corners and junctions, and that is the learning that you get. So I think that is something that one needs to be prepared for and excited about.
Correct. So would you also say that, let us assume one of the candidate is fantastic at a technical aspect, perhaps a software, or another has much better skills of being on the site and being able to deal with workers and solve problems at the site.
I feel that, yeah. So I feel we could possibly work on the skill set of each individual, trying to understand what a person is good at, but at the same time not ignoring the fact that he's not here only for that job. He has aspirations to become a designer, to become a professional, and I think as a studio we have a sole responsibility to help him be through that journey and be through the entire process of learning to become a better person, a better designer. But having said that, there are challenges that as a professional and as a studio we also face, wherein we understand that you spend a good considerable amount of time with a professional, with a youngster, and then by the time we make them adept with certain things, certain systems of a studio and certain mechanisms that we work with and certain design methodologies that we follow in the entire systems, and by the time they're actually groomed enough to do that, they want to say goodbye. That is a big challenge that I'm very candid in saying that, but that's a big challenge that we're facing in the industry. And there was a time when we would actually hire a lot of trainees and freshers, but now actually we are skeptical about doing it. I'm being very honest in saying that, for simple reasons that we put in a lot of effort in grooming them, but we also expect some things in return from them. So I'm sure Pankhuri would agree with me when I say that, because it's a two-way process.
No, absolutely. So actually, absolutely on the same lines, Parag, we've also, because so much goes into bringing the students up to a certain level where they start giving back. And by the time you reach that point, because I'm guessing they're young and they want to explore and they want to try out different things, so that's constantly been a challenge. So we're also now quite wary, and we're very selective about who we take in, because you have to show a slightly longer term commitment, otherwise it doesn't work. So that is something that, and
But I
especially
mean,
with,
as a design institute, probably that's where you also, can play a very important role in, shaping up that kind of students that you churn out, and kind of educating them that there is a lot of professionalism needed in the industry.
Correct.
And when we
yeah,
talk about
yeah.
when we talk about professionals, we all know that Oxford states that professional is a noun, and professional can also be used as an adjective. So it's time that we look at the word professional to be used like an adjective. So there are certain inherent qualities that come with the professional, and I'm sure it's time that we start respecting those qualities.
Well, we have a whole topic laid aside, a little while later. But I still want to come back to the careers and opportunities and positions. Let us say that they have certain, what do they start as? And at what point do you guys feel that they're ready to move on to the next job or next kind of a domain or the next position? What would you look for in that?
Are we doing a poll right now?
Shall we just wait for this poll for a while?
Sure.
Sarika, if you can withdraw this, thank you. Yes. So my question is, when do you sort of feel that the newcomer is ready to move into another area for more exposure, or is ready to move up, get promoted into another position?
If you ask me personally, we are a design practice who's all willing to give on hands-on experience to anybody who joins in. We kind of delegate responsibilities in terms of client handling, in terms of vendor management, in terms of project detailing, provided the person is willing to take it. So I don't want my staff or my colleagues and comrades, I don't want to be stopping them from anything. But at the same time, I get the same kind of response and the feedback from the person.
Right. That sounds really, really exciting for a youngster to handle clients, to take on project management. Isn't that like a big responsibility? Do you think they are ready to?
I'll tell you, we've actually tried doing that with few people, and they've actually been able to deliver that.
Oh, that's
So unless we give them some kind of a responsibility, I don't think they'll be able to show up on that front. But at the same time, like Pankhuri said, that we have become wary about delegating responsibilities because of the kind of responses that we get. So it's like a two-way process.
sure.
Yes, so it's also like what we say at our studio union is that you're given as much as you ask for. So, if you show potential and if you're eager and if you're enthusiastic, which are all qualities we expect from the students who join us. So then there is no end to it. Like, you'll be given as much as you're eager to take on. So we also have no boundaries that, intern won't interact with the client, or intern can't go to site. I have interns who are managing very large sites for me because they've just shown the potential that they can do it. So there are absolutely no hard lines. It's really your individual attitude and what you're willing to take on, and then sky's the limit.
Lovely. That's great to hear, because I'm very sure a lot depends on the individual. And of course, it is about also being able to think on the spot and to be able to deliver some hard tasks. I've also heard a lot of questions from youngsters wanting to know whether there would be special tasks such as, being styling a space. And if you're really good at it, is it possible that they sort of get confined to that area, or you are probably very good, of course, as I mentioned, with your AutoCADs, or you are perhaps great with materials and you may end up being managing a lot of that for the studio? Would it be that way? Would you be able to define that particular expertise and allow the young graduate to work on styling for perhaps most of the projects that are with you? Or
we slightly different way of looking at it as a studio.
Okay.
So what we at least encourage the new people to do is, you should have an understanding of every aspect of a project. So once you come in, you go through that entire cycle. So you start from concept, you do the detailed drawings, you deliver an entire package. So, you know, for say we do have a design team and a technical team. So there are two kinds of teams in the studio, but for the first few projects, we ensure that anyone who comes in, they do everything. They might start from a small project, but they'll do everything on a project. So they're understanding, because we only feel that you can sort of direct or delegate only if you have an understanding of it yourself.
360
so
degrees.
Once you've been through a couple of those cycles, and then we might give you that option to say that, okay, you know, this is what I want to excel in, and this is what my interest is. So, you know, I would like to focus on this. Then of course that opportunity can be created, but not without having gone through the entire cycle of yeah.
That does make sense.
I think it would be more like trying to exploit the faculties that each individual has, and trying to utilize the best of his potential, post which not confining him just to that. So obviously, we need to be exposed to different aspects of the entire project. But yes, we need to work on his capabilities and his...
Because their understanding of themselves might also be limited. Like, you know, it might come from a certain notion that they have that, okay, I'm good at styling. But, you know, once you go through that entire cycle, that's only when you discover that, okay, maybe this was not it, and that there is so much more. So.
Right. So I can imagine the studio becomes the next place where they get sort of more structured into the system, and they get introduced to the way things work. I'm going to move on to the next topic of conversation, which is creative visualization versus software application. A huge amount of discussion. Always I find, you know, education is discussing a lot about that. So I will bring the same thing over here. But before that, let's take a poll question. Tarika, please. Okay, concept visualization through drawing is more important than software applications such as AutoCAD, SketchUp, 3ds Max. So is it true, false, neither, or both, and more? Okay, what does it say? Oh, it's true. So there is a perception that concept visualization through drawing is more important. Now, what is your take on this? Because of course, I have a lot of things that I have heard and discussed with our educators, but I'd like to hear from you guys, and I will let you guys know what we discuss a lot about. Yes.
For sure, nothing can replace your concept visualization. No software, nothing can replace it.
Right.
But yes, we've gone a long way in, you know, in the entire process of designing the project, which started from a hand-drawn sketch and presentations made through, you know, watercolors and Luna color pencils and all that, to an era where everything is backed by BIM and 3D Max renderings and all that stuff. So that has really come in handy, if you ask me, but nothing can replace the basic sketches that are needed for basic conceptualization. Now today, at least, they come in handy because our clients are able to visualize better what we suggest and we propose to them, and our ideas are conveyed better. And right from the time when we used to do concepts through presentations, through mood boards and physical samples, we've also gone to the stages where we have e-mood boards now.
Right.
So where, you know, everything is Photoshop, put on a piece of paper and send it across to the client. Particularly during these times when, you know, meetings have gone online and a lot of presentations are happening online. So this mode of presentation and conceptualization has really come in handy. But I would still say that nothing can replace the physical samples and the conceptual drawings.
Well, thank you. I want to know what Pankhuri thinks. Pankhuri, is your setting off? All right. I'm sure when Pankhuri comes on, we are going to take her opinion as well. But in the meantime, I I would like to know then, why is there so much of stress on software learning? Because I do think even when the young students come to us, that's the first thing that they are very excited about. Because they know that there is something called AutoCAD, which is going to translate their ideas into something more real, into more structured drawings and give details, technical details. So why is that not important when I see the participants giving some views over here? Pankhuri, we were talking about which one is
Sorry, I had a technical glitch. I'm back now.
no issues, except even right now you are horizontal to us.
Sorry.
Never mind. Okay. All right. So, what is your opinion? I mean, is one more important than the other? Such as visualization through drawing is more important than translating it on AutoCAD, which is, of course, the technical translation. So, what?
I actually don't think so at all. Like, I actually find this dialogue very confusing because I don't think one can exist without the other. Like, I might convince the client through beautiful drawings or sketches or 3D renders that, okay, this is what we're going to build for you. But if I am not able to resolve it technically to the utmost kind of precision and detail, like, I think that's quite meaningless. So I think they just go hand in hand. I don't think one can exist without the other. So yeah, I don't think this conversation is valid.
Right. So, well, that's your opinion as well. And
Yeah.
so let me tell you that as educators, we have gone through this whole debate of what works most or best. It is really for us, we are very, very clear that every aspect of the process is equally important. Visualization, drawing, being able to present your concepts to the best that the client can understand is really important, whether it's or other presentation techniques. So being able to transmit that and to implement it to as close a possibility as your drawing is also important. And hence, I would advise our participants that think about both. You perhaps cannot ignore one for the other. Or if you really are very weak, if you consider yourself very weak and find it difficult to be good at all of them, make sure at least you work out your averages and perhaps do a bit of everything and be best in one or two of these things. I'm going to move on to the third topic, but just one last question in this. Do you think anybody who's really proficient in, let's say, all technical softwares, very, very proficient, is able to translate this, do they really have possibilities to shine out as designers later on? Can they sort of lead projects?
I feel that this profession is very passion driven. So unless you're passionate about what you do, how you work, what you design, I don't think one could really excel in terms of the quality of designs that you can generate. Software learning is a secondary aspect to it. I agree that they go hand in hand; they're equally important. But that's to me still is secondary because that is a skill set which can still be picked up. Whereas, the first and foremost thing is to develop and hone your designing skills, for which I'm sure there are a lot of exercises that you have. Those somewhere down the line, they help the child in basic understanding of what design is all about.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Parag. I think, yes, you do believe in your domain, strength of your domain, and that's wonderful. So I'm sure students listening across the conversation, where you stand, and it would be good for you guys to make sure that you do have a 360 degrees exposure and experience as well. Let's move on to the next topic. Our next topic is about being professional. This is a complaint I've heard very often. Perhaps at some, at the age that they come to college, they're young, they want to explore, and sometimes they break rules, which is fine, as long as to what point you can go. many a times breaking rules can become a habit, which is what we have seen. And of course, at the college level, there are so many rules and mandatory mandates which are which are implemented to keep the students in place. But beyond that, once they graduate, I've started hearing a lot of industry members and professionals complain about how students or how these young graduates have some problems with the professionalism. Would you like to expand on it? And would you like to tell us a little bit more why it is important in your field?
So, I think that professional attitude or professionalism, whatever we want to call it, is not restricted to young students. It creeps down to every professional, be it me, you, all of us here, right? For simple reasons that when we are speaking to a client, when we are delivering a project, there is certain kind of professional commitment associated with it. So my loyalty in terms of my timelines of the project, my deliveries of the project, how my involvement into the project so that I can contribute to the best of my capabilities, all that somewhere down the line contributes to a professional behavior. Second aspect is what you were stressing upon is where students come in and how do they develop the professional skill set. So that is something equally important that right from the inception stage when they jump into the profession and when they are heads on to take into the profession as a designer, that's where certain things need to be instilled into them, that they have to understand what professionalism was all about.
Mm-hmm.
So that starts from their, sticking on in the organization for a longer to understand better how the organization works, like I mentioned earlier, to be then their capabilities and their possibilities of giving the best to the organization and to the project. And post which, yes, professionalism was all about being there, giving the best of abilities to the project.
Sure. Okay, Pankhuri.
So yeah, so there are many aspects to it, Nian, like so professionalism, while of course there is a certain discipline and there is a certain rigor, but for us it also really comes down to integrity. Like, I think there are some values which we have as an organization which just cannot be compromised on. So we actually have a document, and that's one of the first orientation exercises that one goes through in the studio, is we take them through a set of values saying that, okay, this is Studio Lotus and this is what we stand for. And these 10 things are the benchmark of our studio, and none of these are negotiable. So I think that is really what it comes down to, whether it's resourcefulness, or whether it's working as a team, whether it's integrity. So, those cannot be overlooked. So, like Parag was saying, skill and, those are things that can be sort of developed over time. But like for us, the basic values, I think that is really what we look for in a person. And that is what we like to build on as we go along.
I'm sure all the practicing studios probably emphasize equally on professional behavior, because that really makes your working relationship so much more easy, and your environment is really important as well for each member of the team to be able to exhibit that right attitude. I'm going to bring in our participants. There's a poll question here, and let's see what you have to say. Of course, you've heard our guest, but you may have your own opinion as well. Okay, punctuality, ethical practice, integrity, and strategic thinking. So, what is important to you? Okay, I'm actually surprised. I'm getting an answer which is strategic thinking. I wasn't expecting that. What do you have to say about that? Because I don't even know if that is. No, it's not really just about professional attitude. What do you have to say? Parag, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, in fact, even I am a little surprised with the kind of answers we're getting because I also wasn't expecting this to be coming in. But yes, I think it's everything in totality. I don't think we can talk
Yeah.
about one of the aspects in isolation. When we talk about a professional attitude, it has to be everything together. My delivery to the project, my punctuality, like Pankhuri also stated that there is a certain kind of integrity associated with each practice that we want to stick to and which we make sure that that's deeply instilled into all our workforce. So I think it's all everything put together which contributes to a professional.
Pankhuri, would you like to make a comment on this? And
No, I completely agree. I have nothing to add. Like for me to, pick out one thing over the other is always challenging because I really think that it's really a combination of all these factors which makes us who we are. So
yeah, I just didn't think, well, it's about also, I do believe that a lot of our young professionals in the field feel a kind of a stress to perform and to achieve. And hence, the strategic thinking is so much more important for them. It's always on their horizon. And everything else probably they believe can be, can be adapted and can be learned.
sure.
So, in your own ways, you are right. But I would also say don't really just take on only achievement pressures. I think if you learn to enjoy it, you're probably going to be a far reaching interior professional for many more years. Okay. My last topic is about, leadership in this industry and being able to, firm up how you, 1 minute, I'm just trying to understanding the industry and taking on leadership roles. Now, most of these youngsters perhaps have would love to become leaders at some point, maybe whether it's their own organization, whether it's in a corporate area, and for that they need to understand the industry. So, very quickly, Parag, tell me what is the future industry going to be like, and to become leaders there, what would be the competencies you would advise?
Yeah. I mean, talk about any leader, they must have started initially at certain stage. So I think it's very important to get groomed under practicing people because that's where you get the best insight about the profession, the practice, how the industry runs, how projects are handled. And of course, there is no dearth of projects in terms of what they can pick up in the times to come. But yes, at initial stages, I think it is very, very important to hone their skills to understand particularly the services part because at times when students graduate they have a very different perception about interior projects. For them interiors is more about color combinations, putting just elements together, but it's not that. There are a lot of technicalities associated with each project that we talk about. So for students to get a very hands-on experience in terms of getting sound and to be able to understand how a project is executed, so it's very important that they join studios to understand the work, and once they have that kind of experience, obviously there's no stopping them. They can
Right.
start on them.
Thank you. Pankhuri, would you like to say?
So if we're talking about the future of the profession, of course, I think one key abilities for a studio to have is the ability to adapt. So, we are all in unique times right now with COVID. So, I think we have to sort of keep evolving and changing as a studio. And I think that's something that anyone who's joining us is also something that one has to sort of get used to. So yeah, the potential is immense. Like it's an area which will always exist, but how it evolves and how it changes and how you keep up with it is really the challenge. Like whether it's in your internal working, keeping up with the newest technology and softwares, or it's even like, say, if you look at an area like retail. So, and if you say, like, if you talk about the future of retail, then what does that mean? Like going forward, when people are not venturing outdoors, like what is the future of commercial spaces? So constantly having these conversations and adapting to these conversations, I think that's what's really important for the studio and anyone who's a part of the studio.
All right. Well, thank you very much, both Pankhuri and Parag. I have many questions for you from the participants, and I'm going to put it one to Parag and one to Pankhuri in turn, so that we can answer as many as possible. So let's begin with the question from Ria. So what are the requirements for a fresher entering? I do think you've answered many of them, but maybe a line around it.
I
And
didn't
what?
get the question, sorry.
Sorry, just I'm continuing the question. What do you see in a portfolio, and what are the softwares a fresher should learn? So Parag.
Well, like I said, software skills are something that can still be picked up. So when a fresher approaches us, what we see is his passion towards work. How keen or how excited is he or she to join the profession to work? And secondly, of course, whatever work they've done through the internship or even during the studio exercises in the curriculum, they speak a lot about how they would be able to perform. So, I mean, over the years, you've developed that kind of understanding how to pick up the right candidates through the kind of work that they have done in studio as well as in their internships.
Right. Thank you. There's a question from Shreya for you, Pankhuri. I'd like to know your point of view, but I'll also add on to this. Can someone pursue interior design after doing their graduation in some other field? And what course should they opt for? So would you have any advice to give them?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there is a age limit or a skill limit. Like, I think that's really, as Parag said, it's up to your interest and your passion. You can pick it up at any time. So absolutely. And within that, if you want to create, because if you're starting out slightly late and you want to create a niche for yourself and you want to take up a particular aspect of interior design, if you want to focus on styling or if you want to focus on furniture, so that might give you an advantage, because of course it is a very vast field. So I'm saying defining a niche for yourself might help at that point, but absolutely you can take it up at any point. I don't see that as a challenge.
So I'd just like to add on, yes, anybody who would like to now pursue, perhaps after having completed your graduation in some other field, there are programs, postgraduate programs in the field. So for example, JS Institute of Design offers an 18-month program where 1 year you are in the classroom, in the studios working with your teacher, and 6 months in the industry undergoing internship. So, and in other colleges as well, they have 2 years program, or there are even shorter programs. So yes, it is absolutely possible as long as you can undertake this intense course, because it would be intense. There are many things to learn and you will have to devote full time to it, whatever may be the period. Okay, we move on to the next one. A question from Ridhima. For a sales and BD professional, what kind of a course will be suitable? Okay, this is again about course and career in commercial interiors. Is project management helpful? Does a course in interior design really help, since it focuses more on residential space? No, I'm sorry to say this interior design does not focus only on residential spaces. It covers all kinds of spaces, including commercial interiors, hospitality, and retail spaces. So these are all the kind of interiors that are worked upon as projects when you are studying. But do you have anything specific to say about her background is as a sales and BD professional? And she is interested to get into commercial design of commercial spaces. Commercial.
The last conversation answers a question wherein we said if she's passionate about it, despite having a sales background, she can still switch to something like a design course. So, and the kind of courses that we offer, I'm sure she'll be able to do it.
All right. Okay, I have a technical question for either of you just now from Harjeet. I'm currently working on some elevations and interiors in 3D Max. Do I have to learn softwares like Lumion, SketchUp to help me improve in my current role? So these are softwares, Lumion, SketchUp, and right now he's working on 3D Max.
So SketchUp is actually a more elementary form of developing 3D, because we normally work on conceptuals. When we do conceptuals, we work on SketchUp for that purpose. 3D Max and all these are 3D softwares which are used for modeling and 3D modeling for any kind of renderings. Lumion, I think, is a plug-on kind of a thing which is used to, if I'm not mistaken, it's by and large used for developing better renders. So the modeling happens in 3D Max, but you can still do the renders, generate the renders in Lumion. So these are, I think, add-on things that he can definitely add on to his portfolio.
Yeah, but like just to add to that, like I think it's important to have an understanding of the rudimentary softwares also, because you don't always have the luxury of time to develop something on a 3D Max or a more sophisticated 3D software. So you need to know the basics of SketchUps and the Lumions to make quick presentations, and so I think it's absolutely essential.
All right. So Harjeet, I hope you have found your answers. It's always better to be able to learn more and more, but it depends on how you are going to be applying it. A question from Shubhangi. Given the economy is in recession and there are so many layoffs, how does one who has just started with their career get into industrial and commercial design with less experience? How can one understand technicalities related to a specific field? How can you best nurture younger talent?
That's a lot of questions.
But I'm sure there are really, all youngsters have so many questions. Times are not really very easy. So I hope we are able to address some of them. Okay, first, can we go by the, how does one get started with a career into industrial and commercial design?
So
industrial design is, I think, more for on an architectural level than interior thing, wherein it's a total takeoff from conventional interiors that we're talking about. So she needs to be very clear as to what are they looking at. Is it more towards industrial aspect, more towards the architectural part of it, or more towards interiors?
Whereas with commercial design, Pankhuri, what do you feel about being able to do commercial design with less experience?
So of course, everyone has to start somewhere. So, experience only comes with time. And of course, the times are tough right now. So even a lot of firms are not hiring. So it is going to be challenging. So I would say that this is a great opportunity to build on your skills, to sort of do a lot of work on yourself, because you somewhere need to be in a slightly unique position. Like, your portfolio needs to stand out because there's very selective hiring happening. So whatever you need to do, you like to take this time really as an opportunity to build on your skills, whatever they might be, whether it's software related, your competencies, and then present yourself in a unique way. I think that's the only way to really get picked up at this time, whether it's in commercial interiors or architecture or whatever, every possible field, because it is challenging with the layoffs and with the economy being currently where it's at.
I can imagine that perhaps being attached to a studio while you're working there, or trying to source projects, collaborate with people on projects, may also be one way to be able to work on larger projects. Perhaps, get attached to a senior designer to be able to help out. I mean, there are many of these things which are very similar to be in a job situation, but it's going to be much more tougher than normal times.
Sure.
There are questions to do with how would you nurture? I mean, I do want that specific answer from both of you as to how would you nurture young talent generally. Forget about the times now, but generally, how would you nurture a young talent?
So I think that's my job profile. I think that's pretty much what I do. So I think in our studio, finally, my responsibility as a principal is to ensure that we have the right team in place, the team is getting the right mentorship. There are a lot of learning and development programs that we have as a part of our structure. So I think it really depends on where you're working and what the studio is committed to. So we are committed as a studio leader, every part of the studio. Mm-hmm. So now whatever that takes now, whether it's knowledge, that it's building their softer competencies. So there is a whole module that one has to go through to be able to get to that point. So like I said, like I would call myself chief nurturing officer in the studio. I think if you work with the employees and if you're
Oh, okay. So I think Pankhuri has been. Oh, there you are, Pankhuri. You pop
yeah.
up in windows every time. Good to see you. All right. Parag, a few lines on that. How would you nurture a talent, a young talent in your studio?
I think it's a part of the way we kind of groom people who join us. Nurturing happens automatically because they are exposed to a lot of new stuff every day, right from new materials to new ways of working. In fact, there are occasions when people try and hone their even software skills in our office when they join because they have been working on particular kind of softwares. But then when they approach us, when they start working with us, they are kind of asked to switch to Revit or some other softwares that we're now currently working with. So all that process is a gradual process which definitely happens. And yes, that's how, I mean, once they're on board, they are a part of us. So automatically, their honing of their skills is our responsibility.
So I can assure all the young participants of one thing, that actually when they do join a studio, I think that it's like joining a family and saying, okay, whatever
Absolutely.
ups, downs, and achievements or losses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you don't ditch it. You don't ditch your family as soon as possible. I mean, just be there to learn and be there to support. Uh, that's that side of it. And I'm sure youngsters probably wish they could probably do more than that. There's some very interesting question on the client criticism. How do we deal with client criticism while you are trying to help them? How do you learn to work about, what is it? How to learn on-site work and how things are made without relevant experience. Something.
Client criticism, I think, is a part of the whole. It's a part and parcel of the whole game.
First part of the question is interesting. I think again multiple questions.
Yes.
I'm just answering to the first part of the question that you can't really negate the client criticism part of any design because I think it's an integral part of the whole thing. Unless you get a criticism or a kind of feedback on your design, you will not improve on your design also.
Right.
It's a very inbuilt kind of part of the whole process.
Thank you.
And that's what design school prepares you for. Like, like finally,
so
you're constantly like, yeah, that's the hope that you've been through the grind and you've been through your evaluations. And
so there's a bigger grind that they should be heading for and be prepared for Pankhuri and Shaw.
Yes,
absolutely. But like at least in my design education, I was ground to the floor so many times that I think I just like sort of went prepared. So
this is what we keep on telling our students. What the kind of feedback you get is just a feedback. It's not tough enough, because when you step out, it really gets so tough that sometimes we wish we could have prepared you better, because being clients can be very, very tough, and it's not an easy part to figure out what is to be done at that point. Okay, and another interesting question is, how do you judge the applicant's interest or eagerness to learn or their other management skills through their portfolios? So basically it's about, what do you look for in the portfolio, which I know that
I think it's been answered already. We've already taken this up that when there are portfolio.
So I think, yeah. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Go ahead, Parag. You said something. Oh, is Parag?
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, please.
I was generally saying that I probably answered this question a little while ago when there are applicants who approach us with their portfolio. So what we look for is, I mean, the way they present themselves through their portfolio says a lot about how they can handle the projects or how they can be a part of our studio. And I think one in-person kind of a meeting also says a lot about them. So I think it's in totality both of them.
Right. Okay, Pankhuri, I'm going to ask you another question because I do want to divide the
Sure.
We'll go a little faster.
Yeah.
How do you see the future of interiors in terms of materials and digitization? Is there anything new happening? Are there some exciting material to work with?
So in terms of materials, I think it has to be going back to our roots. It has to be going back to basics. It has to look at materials which are available within a certain radius of where your project is located. Like to my mind, if I'm doing, I don't know, a house in the south of India and I'm using a lot of Italian marble, which is completely out of the context, like that makes no sense to me. So really having an understanding of the region, of the usage. So we don't believe in trends. Like for me, that conversation doesn't exist. But really like the materials which age beautifully, like, whether it's the natural stones, it's the terrazzos, the kind of like, kind of craft available to you, how detail and craft can you add to those materials. Those are the factors that we're really looking at, not really what is popular or what is trending at the moment.
I'll just add one small thing to it, that as a designer, what we can contribute is bringing about newness to the same material through a lot of
Absolutely
with finishes. We could just
yeah.
use, for instance, she mentioned about doing a project in South, they could use a basic stone like a kadapa. But the moment we start texturing and playing with certain patterns of kadapa, it can do wonders. So that's the kind of, that's probably what our take to certain kind of materials would be.
Right. Okay, there's a technical question. Perhaps one of you can answer. What is the difference between normal construction and cost-effective construction?
Approach.
But shouldn't all construction be cost-effective as well?
I think one word would answer the question is the approach.
Okay.
If we head towards the project with the right approach, we can actually make it cost effective, and at the same time, it can still be a very designer project.
Right. And there is another career-oriented question, very important. I'm very sure all our participants want to know about, asked by Riddhi. Does one get more authority after becoming senior designer?
Okay, would you want to answer the question?
So lead the organization, perhaps you can answer.
Yeah, I would like to understand what understanding of authority is, because authority comes with a lot of responsibility. Yeah, sure, there is authority as long as you're ready to handle the responsibility. Just like, of course, you have to make more. Yeah, I was just saying, of course, like you get to make more independent decisions. You're like in our studio, sort of been the grind. You do take on the position of a team lead, where all decisions from hiring to firing to how much, like even the financial target. So that all becomes the responsibility of the senior designer. So of course, yeah, like you get authority, but it comes with a lot of the mentorship of team is your responsibility. Your own growth and learning and development is your responsibility. So it also comes with all of that.
Right. Another one about, this is specific to, having perhaps an interest and competency in one area. What should one do to become really good at styling and conceptualizing? Ananta Lakshmi. Okay, so Anant Lakshmi wants to know if you were to really become good at styling and conceptualizing. Perhaps with all her other skills, she may be fine. So she's trying to improve in these two areas.
I think look around. She needs to look around everywhere. There's so much around us that everything around us offers so much to learn from. So that's probably the best thing that she can do. And obviously, the curriculums that she's following will be the basic stepping stone to it.
Okay. A question for you, Pankhuri. Will a student get a job in architecture or interior design firm if he or she is not able to pick up AutoCAD and does not have interest to pursue it?
Pursue AutoCAD specifically?
Yeah, I guess perhaps technical. What she would mean is technical softwares. Perhaps
You
it's
you need, sure. So I understand the question. I think then you need to have a very unique skill. Like, you know, okay, one can maybe overlook that, but then what is it that you have to offer? So it really depends on that. Ideally, that wouldn't be our first choice. We do want people who can handle all aspects of the job. So maybe not, but unless you show us something which is really unique, why not? But
right.
that's up to you to decide what is that unique skill that you want to acquire or build on.
And okay, there are many questions today, and a lot of it is I guess they do revolve around how does one start, what does one do, and things like that, which I've heard you emphasize it very often in your talks. I'll ask one last question about what qualification is required, is preferred in the interior industry, diploma or master's? Can a person with basic interior design knowledge apply for a master's degree? So I will be able to answer the second part, but what is your opinion about, is there a preference for a particular degree or a diploma uh, in terms of awards?
Not really, if you ask me, because there are courses which are like a 5-year diplomas also in interior design. So a diploma and degree doesn't really make a difference. It's about what you've picked up in the entire curriculum, which will be more important. And we have architects who are working as designers, who are handling interior projects, and even vice versa, because when an interior designer joins us, he or she is exposed to a lot of architectural projects which are happening in the office, so they tend to learn a lot of architectural detailing also, so they tend to become a part of that architectural team as well. So I think
Right,
it's either ways, it's both ways.
right. So, and the person's going ahead to ask, can he or she apply? Oh, it's Anika. So she is asking whether she can apply for a master's degree because she already has a design knowledge. And yes, Anika, that is of course a good beginning, but perhaps you have a portfolio, because a portfolio is going to decide um, where you get the entry. But more than that, if you want to get into a university degree, there are certain basic eligibility criteria, such as having finished bachelor's 3 years bachelor's degree, and many such things. So if you're able to fulfill those, then a portfolio matters, and an entrance test, which is probably applicable in many places. And beyond that, an interview. So once you are able to go through this, you will be able to take up either a master's degree program, or you can even pick up a diploma program, such as like at GSID. And because ultimately what does matter in the field is your portfolio, your ability, and as they have described very often, it's about what you present yourself as an individual and as a professional. um, Thank you very much, and thank you, participants. uh, I would like to thank you guys for having us answer so many questions. Most of them have been answered, but there are a few leftovers which we will respond to you individually. We'd like to, today has been, it's really been reaffirming a lot of perhaps conversations that we have with youngsters, and we are thankful that you are giving us such a positive view of what is happening. I mean, besides the pandemic, I do think the the things don't change. The basic things don't change. Your passion for your domain of work, your taking over responsibilities, being able to adapt, being able to display professional attitude, and taking on responsibilities. I do think these are going to remain always, no matter what. And I do hope participants, you'll be able to pick that up and stay with those ethics as well. Um, I just want to announce as we wind up that our September term, admissions for September terms are on. And one of our offer is to provide a full 100% scholarship for selected students. We'd like to interview you and offer you a 100% scholarship for the September term only. Those of you who are interested, please apply and come and talk to us. And we'd like to offer you that opportunity as long as you fit in there. So look forward to hearing from you, and thank you for being a part of this session today. Bye. We'll see you in the next Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
And
Yes,
thank
it's
you,
good
Pankhuri.
for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, team. Tarika, Dakshita, Lily, Harshita, all of you, for making this possible. This question answer session has so many people curating it. It's been working well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.